Good morning. It's Erika Robinson from In the Company of Cards, back again with the weekend edition. So I have a bunch of questions today, some of them from viewers, some of them just questions of my own. So settle in and enjoy. In case you're new here, welcome. This is In the Company of Cards, where I read Lenormand on the issues of the day. I'm the author of The Language of Lenormand, as well as the author of Erika's Lenormand of Hope. This is the deck that I'll be using as I read cards for you. I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button if you've not done so already. And I would love it if you would like and share the video. Okay. So the first question is from a viewer who saw my reading on the UK economy and asked if I would read on the South African economy, about which I know very little, just saying. But the cards know all. And so I'm going to look at the economy of South Africa. Now, as I did for the UK, I'm feeling like if I'm reading on economy, we're talking about, large sums of money that governments spend on all the things that government spends money on. So the card for that I'm going to use in the Lenormand will be the bear, because the bear is things like investments, inheritances, big money. So we're talking about economy here. And at the very least, let me just say, I'm going to charge the bear card with the energy of the South African economy. So that's what it will stand for in this reading. It will not stand for 45. It will not stand for your boss. It will not stand for food or your weight issues, because the bear can be all of those things. For the purposes of this particular question, the bear will stand for the South African economy. Okay, so just so you can see what I do, I'm cutting the deck. Pardon my knitting over there. That's my knitting basket. I'm dividing the cards into three, and then I'm just putting them together again. And then I check the bottom of the deck to make sure that the bear is not there. And then I'm going to just flip cards over until I get to the bear. As you can see, it was the third card. So I'm putting that there, and then I'm going to put the card that came right before it to the left of it, and the card that came before that to the left of that. So that gives me three. I want my bear still in the middle, so I'm going to pull two cards to give me my line of five. Okay. And I'm also going to pull some clarifiers. I'm just going to pull a couple of clarifiers for each card. And of course, I'll hold them up as I talk about them. But this is how I'm pulling for this question. All right. So what was our line of five? We have the clouds. We have the house. We have the bear, which stands for the South African economy. We have the anchor, and we have the whip. Okay, so I'm going to put those back down so I can discuss them in order or make some kind of coherent sense out of them. Well, with the first part being the clouds, don't love that. Clouds are about doubts and confusion. I can mirror it with the last card, which here is the whip. This is the fifth card in the line, so I can mirror these two. It looks like this confusion is ongoing, that there's no end to it, that there's a lot of probably infighting about how to address the issues of the South African economy. This is not auspicious. Okay, so that's the first card. The second card is the house. How do we get our house in order, our economic house in order because our fourth card is the anchor. And our economic house is not only not in order, it's stuck. An anchor can keep you safe, but an anchor can also keep you stuck. Here, I feel that the economy is stuck, that there's no forward movement. So, of course, I want to pull clarifiers on that because, you know, what if you went to a reader and you said, am I going to find love? And the reader said, yeah, no, pay me my $5. Well, what an unsatisfying experience that would be, right? So to get a reading like this, which is sort of pessimistic about the South African economy, we want to pull more clarifiers. We want to look at the why, and we also want to look at the what can be done, what particular issues does South Africa need to address and sort of hone in on. So the clouds, remember, was that very first card, and I pulled two clarifiers on that house, but you know what? I think I'm going to pull a third clarifier for each of the 5 cards, just because I can. So the clarifiers on the clouds are the young man, the heart, and the mountain. You're not, well, you maybe, I put it this way, I'm old enough to have remembered the apartheid era in South Africa, which was just so horrible. And when that ended, that country was, for Black people anyway, so full of hope and promise. This is the card for hope and promise. And love for the people, love for the culture, love for, they wanted to rebuild a new South Africa. But mountain, I don't know whether, well, certainly there's been enough time, but I don't know that the time has been spent in productive ways. In other words, okay, we ended apartheid. What is our long range plan? And what are the short-term steps that we need to take to put our long-term plan into operation? I just feel like that wasn't considered. So this is a block. That's not great, but it certainly explains why things are the way they are. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about when I see the house in terms of this question is infrastructure. And I think that infrastructure is really an issue. Now, we see the sun. Okay, best card in the deck, everybody says, but remember what the sun can be about. Not just the best stuff out there, but the sun is light and the sun is heat. And it's making me feel like if we're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about a power grid or whatever you call it. The power that makes things flow and operate. And I mean that in a sort of a very mechanical sense, like heat, light, movement, transport, all that kind of thing. I just feel that there's issues with the power grid, so to speak, infrastructure that are problematic. And I know I'm right because the second clarifier on that house, in addition to the sun, the second clarifier is the key. And I always say that the key is the fraternal twin of the sun. So yes, one of the things that they need to first address is their power grid infrastructure, because without that, nothing can move. And, I pulled this final clarifier on that. And again, it emphasizes this. What a gift to people it would be if they could, I don't know, flick a switch and have the lights go on and stay on, to flick a switch and have the heat go on and stay on. And it's more than just lights and heat. It's everything that moves, everything that a power grid can make possible. Like, for example, I don't know, the internet, right? Um, Transportation, things moving from one place to another, import, export, that kind of thing. Everything hinges on really focusing on the infrastructure, particularly the power grid infrastructure. So that's what needs to happen. Okay. Remember that this is our center card, right? This is the bear, and the bear is standing for the economy writ large of South Africa. So we have as clarifiers the garden, the birds, and the lily. So the garden is about just people, the population. So, what does that have to do with the economy? Well, the people need to be addressed, you know, by whoever is in charge. I mean, obviously the thing that comes to mind, or the person that comes to mind, is Roosevelt and his fireside chats, right? Churchill. Um, People, there's got to be a way to talk to the people. Now, granted, if the power grid is screwed up, how do you get that communication out? How do you do that? I think communicating with people is important. Um, whether it's the radio and whatever grid, you know, that goes out to, but people need to be communicated with, and they also need to be given um, some hope and encouragement for the future. Their fears need to be assuaged, calmed. That's the card, that's the lily. So getting the people on board is as important as getting this power grid together. Now, the fourth card was the anchor, and if you recall, I talked about it as being stuck energy. Things are stuck, not safe, but stuck. So I pulled three clarifiers on that. And we have the stars, the snake, and the ring. So what could that mean? I think this is speaking to, again, the power grid. The World Wide Web is a wonderful thing. Communication can be instantaneous and universal, but not if people don't have access to it. So this is again about a power grid and a World Wide Web access to people who are in far-flung parts of South Africa. There are parts of South Africa that are very cosmopolitan and built up, and then there are parts of it that are not. Everybody needs access so they're not stuck. But this is a problem. How to get people that kind of access? I mean, if there are issues with light and heat, good and well that there are going to be issues with access to social media and internet and Google and information gathering and all of that. And it just feels very circular. The problems in one area lend themselves to problems in another area, and that lends themselves to problems in another. There's a circularity to this instead of a straightforward, let's address this step by step. No, it just feels very circular to me. And then the final card in the original line of 5 was the whip. And the whip is about, heated, hot conversations that in the end are not necessarily productive. However, there is another meaning for the whip, which is discipline and focus. And the government, I drew clarifiers, of course, this is the government. The government needs to stop cross-talking each other and instead flip this whip into its other meaning, which is about disciplined conduct. Like let's figure out our order of operations. What do we need to do first? What do we need to do second? What do we need to do third? Right? Now, the moon is the card for reputation. And then the final clarifier is the card for crossroads. As a leader or as leaders of a country, you have choices, right? Are you all about I don't know, the cult of personality, like a certain person that I'll be naming later on, but won't name now? Is it about cult of personality for the leaders of this country? Or will they decide to choose another way? You know, the question, the cards are suggesting that they choose another way, that they be disciplined. And I really think that the power structure meaning the infrastructure, the power grid, that kind of thing, that infrastructure question is the one that needs to be dealt with, A, and also getting people on board. The way you get people on board, though, is the power grid. You give them access to information in a way bigger way than, you know, than a telephone line that is not always stable and working, right? There's a stability in that telephone line, in that power grid. So those are the things that I think that South Africa needs to address. And uh, you know, I'm looking at clouds, which is the very first card I pulled, with the last card, which is crossroads. I don't think that necessarily the powers that be are ready to put ego to the side and choose a different path that advantages the people. You know, knowledge is power. And if people become knowledgeable, they're going to expect certain things, they're going to want certain things, they're going to demand certain things. And the powers that be are not always amenable to that. They don't necessarily want that. They might just want the power. So that's an issue that's got to be dealt with. But in a nuts and bolts way, I feel like it's addressing the power grid issues because without that, a country's success really can't be sustained, you know? So now what I'm doing is this is how I'm shuffling to put the cards back into the deck for the next question. All right, so you don't need to see that. But that's what I'm doing. And I don't want to get too much in my own head by going to the next question until I've shuffled. So this might take a minute, sorry. It's a lot of cards I pulled. Yeah, so this feels like no easy fix for South Africa, but at least those are some guidelines for what to tackle first in ways that will be meaningful. Okay. The next question was also from a viewer. And they asked whether a government shutdown here in the States was imminent. Whether a government shutdown was imminent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull 5 cards and ask the question, so what's the story with a government shutdown? I don't want to ask the question in a yes or no way because I'd like to get an answer that is more nuanced than that. So the card that I'm going to use is the tower. We've just seen that because the tower will stand for government. And we'll see whether, in fact, there will be a shutdown between now and the end of the year. Okay. So again, I'm just flipping over cards. I checked the bottom of the deck. Tower's not on the bottom, so that means I can flip through each one. Okay, so here's our tower. That goes first. And then I'm taking the cards that I already turned over, putting 2 to the left. And then I still have cards in my hand. So this will be our 4th and this will be our 5th card. Okay, so this is our line of five. Dog, book, tower, older woman, and rider. So I'm just gonna move these up a little bit so that I have room on my little table here. And I'm gonna pull some clarifiers. And I'm just showing you just so you can see how I do it. And then I'll pull a postscript, which is just a 3-card extra thing. Okay. I'm back. All right. So again, the line of 5 that I originally pulled were the dog, the book, the tower. This stands for government, whether shut down or not government, but that's the question. Will there be a government shutdown between now and the end of the year? The older woman and the rider. Okay. So let me put them back in order in front of their clarifiers and let's see what we get. So the dog. Um, you know, love the dog, like the dog. It's always a good card, unless it is accompanied by other cards that make it less good, right? So for example, this is the card for a sibling. Now, I hope you all have wonderful siblings. I have wonderful siblings. But if we saw this card with a card that had another sort of more negative association and it was together with this card, we might say, Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel were brothers and Cain killed Abel. So, what do we say? As Black people, we say, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So just because you see the dog, don't get all worked up and excited and think this means good news. Not necessarily. In and of itself, though, the dog is a good card. However, it's followed by, in our first, in our line of 5, the book. Think about people in government. Ideally, what they're meant to be is public servants. This would be the card for that, public servants. But as I said, all skin folk ain't kinfolk, which is to say, sometimes public servants are servants not really so much of the public, but of their own interests. So when we have the book here, it's worth asking ourselves a question. If there are people who are throwing around the idea of a government shutdown, and we know who those people would be, blink, blink, are they your friends? Do they mean well? So, why would a government shutdown? Who, whom, who would a government shutdown advantage? Just ask yourself that question. So here's government, but then, da 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 da. This is my card for Kamala Harris to the rescue. And she comes with a message. Remember, the rider is about a message. She has given, I would say, quite a bit of detail about her economic plan, which does differ from the current president's economic plan. I think this could conceivably give people some hope, some encouragement, and may even uh, make some of those public servants who are really servants out for themselves pause. They may decide to not do the shutdown, to wait and see, because there are policies, frankly, that their constituency might find advantageous to them. For example, giving business loans to people who open small businesses and increasing the level of that loan, the amount of that loan. That's something that a lot of people on the other side would really be in favor of. So are you cutting off your nose to spite your face by creating a government shutdown? They might hesitate. They might think twice. Okay. So I pulled clarifiers on each of those 5 cards. So here we are again with our dog. Think of these as public servants. Did I drop a card? I feel like did I drop a card? I don't see it. Okay, well, clarifiers that I have are the snake and the sun. So I feel like if there is this chatter about having a government shutdown, it's going to look just like what it is. It's going to look like a bowling ball that's rolled right at the Biden administration. It's going to be very clear that that's what that's about. And I don't think it will be received well. Okay, now remember the second card was the book in the line of five. This is about things we don't know. You know, is that dog a good dog or is that dog a bad dog? So the clarifiers that I pulled on that are the moon, the lily, and the scales. This is the card that I had added to my deck. It's not a traditional Lenormand card. So, you know, here's what we don't know. What don't we know? Well, I think it's a very broad question. What we don't know is who it is that we really want to be as a country. But I will say that I think there is a great majority of people who are exhausted from the past, God know however many years it is, 8, 9, 10, however many years it's been, and they just want peace. And they just want a little equilibrium in their lives. Right. So a government shutdown will do nobody any favors. Nobody any favors. Okay. Then we have the government and we have the bear, the clouds, and the scythe. Now, this is 45. 45, his dream is to sow doubt among the people about their government. You know, how he'll say, oh, the country's going to hell. You know, we're not like we used to be. Make America great again, blah, 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 whatever. So his shtick, right, is to foment worry, concern, um, cloudy thinking, confusion, um, to harm us. I'm just saying that's his plan. And by the way, if there were a government shutdown, that would be the plan, right? And I said that before. It would be in keeping with 45's plan to undermine the current government and say, yeah, see how those Democrats are? Look at this. Now we're in a recession. You know, you need me. You need a strong man. Okay, whatever. All right. Then we have Harris. And we have this modifying that the stars, the mountain, and then the younger woman. Okay. So, you know, Harris is not the president yet, but this card is about the future. The stars is about the future. Now, so that means that for now she's stymied. She can't put in any plan because she's not the president yet, but she will be. And this youthful yin energy will be showing people another way for us to do business aside from sowing fear and doubt and swinging sides around. Sides being stand-ins for people's parts of their anatomy that they feel inadequate about. Just saying, new sheriff in town. And then we have this, the rider. Remember, that's news coming in. This is Harris, what she brings in. We have the garden, we have the crossroads, and we have the anchor. I love this because what is the news that she brings? The news is for the people that things are going to be going a new way. Crossroads is about choices, alternatives, a different way. And this anchor now shifts from being something that can weight someone down to being safe harbor. So will there be a recession? I mean, I'm not a recession. Will there be a government shutdown? I don't think so. I think it will serve no good purpose for the Republicans to try to put one in place. It will just make them look, well, worse than they already look. I don't see a government shutdown happening. I also don't see a recession happening. I was asked about that, and I don't think that that will happen as well. Okay, now I wanted to not to toot my own horn, to toot the horn of my cards, maybe. I wanted to call your attention to the fact that several weeks ago, very early on in this channel's career. Oh, by the way, here's the final three that I pulled. Child, letter, key. Again, new sheriff in town. These are votes, and there's our key, the best card in the deck. It's the same best card in the deck as the sun is. Harris is gonna win, just saying. Okay. Oh, I wanted to call your attention to the fact that weeks ago now, I read on 45's sentencing and whether that was going to go forward. And I didn't read that there would be a sentence because I didn't see it going forward yet. Now, I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. I know there are a lot of people who are saying, oh, come on, what's the delay? Sentence the guy already. He's already guilty. Why don't you just, well, remember, any sentence would be appealed. And remember too, after the election, 45 can be sentenced as John Doe, right? He won't be the sitting president. He won't be a candidate for office. He'll just be a regular guy. And I think that could color the scope and sequence, we'll call it, of any sentence that Marchand could impose. So I don't think it's a bad thing that the sentence was delayed. And for those of you who do think it's a bad thing, I'm just going to say, I don't think it's a bad thing that I predicted it correctly. So we'll just leave it at that. I predicted correctly that the sentence would be delayed. Okay. Now, next question. 45, of course, because this is what he does, appealed the judgment against him in the E. Jean Carroll case. Now, I don't know if you saw any of his news conference that he did in front of Trump Tower, inside Trump Tower, wherever it was. I didn't watch it. I heard it, where he talked about being disappointed in his lawyers. And he then proceeded to bring up other women with other accusations, which seem eerily like each other and eerily like what 45 says that he can do because he's famous, if you get my drift. So I don't know how that news conference did him a bit of good, but what I would like to know is, will his appeal have done him any good? So let me see. I think for the appeal, of course, is a written document, right? So let's use the letter. The letter is the most frustrating card in the Lenormand deck because it could stand for anything that's written. But this time we are going to infuse it with the energy of 45's appeal of the judgment against him, the monetary judgment against him in the E. Jean Carroll case. So we want to know what's going to happen with that appeal. So I'll just show you again. I'm just flipping cards over. I already checked the bottom of the deck and the letter is not there. So I'm just going to flip cards till I get to the letter. It's deep in the deck, but that doesn't mean a thing. So there we go. Okay. So we have the letter. We'll put that in the middle. We have the ring and the house. So those are our first three. I still have cards in my hand. This is card number 4 and then card number 5. Okay. So I'm going to move them up and just again, well, before I move them up, the house, the ring, the letter, the heart, and the woman. Okay. Now, 45 still saying, I never met her. I don't know what she looks like. I never touched her. I wouldn't do it. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so, I'm just pulling 3 clarifying cards for each of those original 5 cards. This is what's known by, this spread is known by my name. It's the 23 card spread that does a deep dive into a single issue. And then I will pull 3 more over here. Okay, so what I'm asking is, will his appeal of that case, the E. Jean Carroll case, do him any good? Because there's already a verdict or a judgment. Well, that's what they call it in a civil situation, because we're just talking about monetary damages. Will there be a positive outcome for him? You know, what will happen with his appeal? So with that, this is the original line of 5: the house, the ring, the letter, the heart, and the older woman. You know, the house. I can mirror this first card, the house, with the last card, the woman. I feel like this is E. Jean Carroll, this older woman, and his money belongs to her. And his property is going to belong to her, because that's a lot of money that he got charged. So I just think that that's not good for him. I think this appeal, by the way, will go around and around and around. Remember, the letter is the card for the appeal. This is not going to be adjudicated tomorrow. It's going to go and spin and spin and spin. I think it will take months before his appeal it will be squashed. We'll just say it for the sake of argument, addressed anyway, dealt with. It's going to take a while. That's the appeal itself, but I think it's going to come out in favor of Carroll. And it should, but that's just my opinion. All right, so let's look at the clarifiers. So again, I think that this is his house, his property, you know, the things that he owns, 45, and the clarifiers are the whip, the scythe, and the cross. The cross is a card of pain. The whip, the scythe is a card of cutting. The whip is also painful. These cards are all about punishment. And how will he be punished? By losing his property, his money, his land, his buildings, whatever else that amount of money adds up to, he's going to lose it. And we see that right off. Now, this is the first line. So you might say that we kind of already knew that, because that was the judgment. The judgment was that he had to pay millions and millions and millions of dollars to her. Okay, so we can just, let's be nice. We'll just say that we knew that already, that, you know, so is it going to change at all? All right. So the next card was the ring. And remember, I said this is going to go around and around and around, and it will be months and months and months before it's decided. And we have the ship, we have the older man, and we have the rider. Now, for me, older man, this time it means the judge. Eventually, this thing will stop going in circles and it will move forward, and the judge will hand down the final decision. The upper courts that he appealed to will which would be, these would be the upper courts, will hand down the decision, but it's going to take a while. All right, the clarifiers for the letter, which is his appeal. We have the book, we have the young woman, and we have the snake. Now, again, this is his appeal. The book, well, whether or not things are adjudicated in his favor in terms of the appeal, we don't know yet. And that center line is where we are right now at the present. But we are also still in the Me Too era. We're still there. And he's been grabbing more than one woman by the forever. So this is going to end up being a problem for him. The snake is a problem. And by the way, let me remind you again, my snake slithers through mugwort, which is a feminine herb used in healing and in divination. So it's right in line with this card here. Women are going to be his downfall. The women that he has grabbed, the women that he wishes he grabbed, it's going to be his downfall. Okay. We have, as our fourth card in that first line of 5, we have the heart. And here the clarifiers are the lily, the moon, and the tower. I believe here we're talking about E. Jean Carroll's reputation being intact, adjudicated intact. In other words, yeah, you did that thing, and yeah, you're going to pay that money because this is the court, and that she will receive what is her due, and can finally breathe a sigh of relief and put him out of her mind because she deserves to be able to do that. God knows the rest of us do too. And here we have E. Jean Carroll, and the clarifiers are the scales, the crossroads, and the tree. Don't love the tree here because it's a very slow card. I mean, I don't think that this appeal will be heard and decided on for months. So it's going to be a long time, but she will get what's due her. And, Crossroads is about choices. I think she'll have choices about what she does with those proceeds. Hopefully she will use them for the greater good. Take some vacations, buy some clothes, whatever, but hopefully she will use this money for the greater good. I can mirror the first card and the last card. So the first card in our original 5-card reading was the house, and the last card in our clarifiers over to the bottom right is the tree. So what happens to his property will take a long time to be decided. The wheels of justice move slowly. However, how is this going to end for him? Well, we have the postscript. It's a 3-card reading that I just used to say, is there anything else I can look at in this question? So we have the stars, we have the mountain, and we have the clouds. In the future, he will find he has hit a brick wall, that there's nobody else he can appeal to. It's a civil judgment. His Supreme Court is not in it. And by that time, I mean, entertainment purposes only, his mind may be so addled that he doesn't even know the difference. He could be in a padded cell and think he's in Mar-a-Lago. I don't know. But things will not end well for him in terms of this case. Okay, so I'm gonna just I'll show you what I'm doing, the way that I shuffle cards back in. These are the cards that, of course, I've used, and I'm just putting them in with the rest of the deck. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing. The next question I wanted to look at is about the efficacy and the reliability of polling. And that's because, as I was brushing my teeth this morning, I had the radio on and was listening to this commentary about the fact that the 2 candidates, Harris and 45, are neck and neck. So I just want to look at the efficacy of polls. And I think that the card I want to use for that is going to be the birds. Now, why would that be? Well, birds is about talking, right? And when people are polled, they're being asked what their opinion is. So I'm going to use birds. And lots of polling is done in a pretty antiquated way. Like, for example, they call people who have landlines. Who has a landline still? Not I, said the little red hen. I don't have a landline. I mean, obviously, there's polling, there's internet polling as well, but polling, I'm not sure how accurate it is. So what I'm gonna do is look for the birds. So their cards are all shuffled. And it's not on the bottom, so I have to flip over cards till I get to it. And I want to just look at the efficacy and accuracy of polls in terms of presidential, this particular presidential election. Okay, so birds are in the middle. And then I'm pulling. All right. And then I'm going to pull some clarifiers, but just so you know, we have the garden. We have the heart. Birds, this stands for polls. We have the tower. And we have the bear. Okay, so hi again. I'm gonna just pull a couple of clarifiers, I think. I'll pull 2 clarifiers for each of the original 5. And then I'll talk about the original 5 and then use the clarifiers to explain them. Okay. So our original line of 5 are the garden, the heart, birds, tower, and bear. Okay, so what might they mean? Well, the garden is the people. And people love hearing about polling. They love that. You got Kornacki with his Dockers on at the big board, and he's doing all the polling or interpreting all the polling, and people, his whole career is now based on that. And you know what? Good for him. I like him. He's a good guy. But people sort of sit on the edge of their seats when it comes to polling and what that might mean. The tower, remember, is the card for government and institutions. So polling is kind of an institution. It's a thing. We think that it has meaning because we've been doing it forever. And so surely it must have meaning, we think. I would just say that to be careful because the bear can be overbearing. And when I look at this line of 5, I can mirror the garden, which is the first card, with the last card in that line. So I can mirror the garden with the bear. What might that mean? Well, it can mean that if people listen too raptly, too, I don't know, exclusively, we'll just say, to polling, it can really have an outsized influence over their behavior. For example, well, I mean, I saw the polls say that so-and-so's 10 points ahead, so that's my guy, so I'm just going to stay home because why vote? Conversely, um, you know, my guy is 10 points behind, and what's the point of voting because they're already 10 points behind? I'm just going to stay home. It affects people in disproportionate ways. Polling can be information, but I think it needs to be put in proper context with everything else. And of course it's not. It's overemphasized. And again, I can mirror the heart with the tower. We're used to Kornacki at the big board. We like seeing those numbers for good or for ill. We like thinking that they are informing us about something, but are they really? I don't know. So now let's go back. I pulled just 2 clarifiers for each of those 5 cards. So here's our garden. This is the public. And the clarifiers are the letter and the clover. Well, people always want, the public always want to see their person ahead. It feels very sort of lucky and gambly to pay attention to polling. Oh, they're up. Oh, no, they're down. Oh, no, they're up. Oh, no, they're down. It's a very, Clover is like that. It's like giddy and excited and on the edge of your seat and the, seat of your pants, that kind of thing. When we're talking about where the vote is. Okay. Now, the heart being our second card, the clarifiers for that are the house and the older woman. Bear in mind, I'm just going to say, and again, if you're a Trumper, why are you here? Move along, because I'm not, and this channel is not. But the cards are saying people really like Harris. She makes people feel at home with her, and that will become increasingly the case as we move along. So, take polling with a grain of salt. I'm just going to say that. All right, here's polling itself. And isn't it interesting that the clarifiers are the book and the ship? Well, what does that mean? That polling doesn't tell us anything. The book is about things we don't know, about how things will move forward on election day. It's a piece of information, but it is not the definitive piece of information. No single poll and no group of polls are. So again, it's what I said earlier. We maybe put too much stock in polls. All right. Now, this is the institution of polling. Like it's a tower. Polling's been around forever, again, since people had landlines. And the clarifiers are fascinating. We have the coffin and we have the child. The coffin says this is an old-timey way of doing things, this polling, dialing people up on their landlines to see where they're going to vote, which way they're going to vote. It's antiquated system. And we need something new and different. And then we have the bear. And that's sort of the overbearing nature that, or the overinflated influence that polling can have on people's behavior. And we have the young woman here, and we have the mountain. Yeah, polling's undue influence can make people passive, can keep people from going out to the polls. Because, oh, my guy's way ahead, they're going to win, or my guy's so far behind, there's no point in me going out. So that really tends to be the purpose of it's not the purpose. The purpose is to inform us, where people are in a given cycle, but the effect tends to be to make the electorate passive so that they don't go out and vote. So that's not good. Okay. So I'm gonna put these away and just say, pay attention to the polls if you will, but do not give it an overemphasis of your attention. There are so many other factors, and polls can be skewed, and we won't know anything until the election's over. Notice I don't say till election night, because God knows what's going to happen in terms of chicanery, bad behavior, shady dealings. We don't know. But polling is certainly not going to necessarily tell us the whole story. Okay, and then finally, I would like to look at the debate. I've looked at this before. If you go back to my previous video on this, I do address this. I think that I remember saying that, there's a lot of still chatter about whether 45 will show up. I think he will show up because I think his ego will not allow him to not show up. I think his handlers are very worried about how he'll perform. But I do think he'll show up. So I think what I'm gonna do is why don't we look at how he's feeling, just 5 cards, how he's feeling in advance of this debate. This is Sunday, so they've got today and tomorrow and Tuesday, I guess, during the day to prep. They don't have much time. But let's look to see how 45 is feeling on the eve of the debate. Okay. So I'm gonna look, I'll be nice. I won't call him the bear. I'll let him be the older man. And we want to know how he's feeling on the eve of the debate. So here he is. And I'll show you how I pull. So that's him. And then I'm pulling the 2 cards that come before him. And then I'm pulling the 2 cards that come after him. Okay. So I don't really feel like I want to pull clarifiers on this, but we have the mice, we have the tower, we have 45, we have the letter, and we have the young woman. Okay, so what does this mean? I think he is terrified. If he does not use depends, he might want to invest in a package prior to the debate. I think he's really, really nervous. More than anything, I think it's nerves. And I can mirror this card. This is the mice, which is the card for anxiety, worry, nerves, stress. I can mirror it with the last card, which is the young woman. I think that, I mean, ultimately, he will feel impotent in the face of Harris's expertise as a debater, we'll say. She's a prosecutor. Pretty sure she knows how to stand up there and deliver. He's really scared. The second card is the tower. Here, and as you know, every Lenormand card has different meanings, but here he feels alone. Because remember, you can have all the debate prep in the world, all of the people advising you in the world. In the end, you're the one who's standing up there on that stage behind that podium, behind that lectern. So he feels scared and he feels alone. There he is in the middle. And we have the letter following. He may have talking points. I mean, he'll have to memorize them, but of course he can't memorize them is the problem. He's not allowed notes or a pen, paper, nothing like that. So, and it mirrors the tower. Tower mirrors the letter. So, not only does he not have any props, this is also votes. Votes will hinge on his performance. And if you think that I'm making that up, may I remind you of what happened with the current president in his last debate? History sometimes turns on a single event more times than you would think. Sometimes history can hinge on a single event, just as it did for Biden in that last debate. So he knows how important this is. I think he will feel out of his depth. Now, of course, what he does when he feels out of his depth is he's like a rat cornered in a kitchen where the light's just gone on and there's the rat. And so he'll be like a cornered rat. He'll bare his fangs. He'll be nasty and ugly and rude because that's what he does. Or he will be, and this would be consistent with this card, very subdued, very low energy. Remember he called Jeb Bush low energy Jeb? He'll be low energy. That's the other way that this can manifest. But I don't think he's feeling good now, and I don't think he's going to feel any better between now and 2 days from now. All right. So let's see how Harris is doing. And this will be the last question. All right, so for this one, I'm going to use the older woman, and that will be Harris. So just again to show you, I'm just doing like, a last little shuffle. Okay, and then I'm cutting the deck into three with my left hand. That's just because I feel like it. And then I'm flipping the cards over one by one. I check the bottom of the deck, and she's not there, so she's somewhere in the deck. Somewhere deep in the deck. Okay, she's the next to the last card. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna put her here, and I need a line of five, right? So 1, 2, 3 cards gives me 4, and then I have one card in my hand that gives me 5. Okay. So the cards that we have for Harris are the young man, the older man, the cross, Harris, and the star. Okay. And because that's a very interesting card to have in the middle, I think I'm going to pull some clarifiers on the cross. Okay. Um, so the young man, this is Harris, Harris's energy, in the sense that she believes she can do anything. Look at him. He is just self-assured, confident, relaxed, secure. He's got this. Here's her opponent. This is 45. And right next to 45, right in the center, card, cross. Her job will be, in that prosecutorial way, to inflict pain on him, to lay him low. The cross is a card of pain. I understand it's a religious symbol, but why is it a religious symbol? Because it was an instrument of torture. He will feel the pain. Then we have her over as the fourth card, and the star. She will set her future. I think people will see it'll be a very clear no contest between them. I mean, if you're a Trumper, you're a Trumper, and you're a Trumper all the way, and you'll die a Trumper. I hope not, but for other people, people who are undecided or feel like they don't know her or whatever, I think they will know her by the end of that Tuesday evening. Okay. And then I decided to pull clarifiers on the cross because it is a card of pain. So what does that mean? Well, the clarifiers for the cross are the coffin, the anchor, and the dog. This is very clear to me, so let me explain it to you. Again, this is a card of pain. Entertainment purposes only, YouTube, metaphorically speaking, YouTube. She'll bury him. And then weight the coffin down with an anchor. So he'll be lower than 6 feet. Why? Because she's a prosecutor. This is a card for the lawyer. I know before I said it was the card for a sibling, friend, and it is, but another meaning is lawyer. She will use her lawyerly acumen to bury him deeper than 6 feet. He will feel it. So that is my last word on the debate and what will happen. I hope you all watch. As always, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. If you have questions for me, please put them in the comments and I will look to address those. I've only been up for like a month and I think we're doing pretty well here. I would love this channel to grow. I'd love to keep doing this, certainly even post-election. I love showing people how Lenormand works and and looking at things with just more than our naked eye, but with our our third eye, right? And I'm hoping that you're learning how Lenormand can help you to do that. So please like and subscribe, leave your questions below so I can answer them next time, and have a great rest of the weekend. Bye.